Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste, welcome to our Thursday meeting on Swami Paramarthananda's booklet, Vedanta booklet entitled The Big Picture, Vedanta, the Big Picture. So we could begin with Q&A, or we could either go into the big picture. So anything coming from you guys?
I've always had a less than clear understanding about what is meant when Ramji says there's only one day. Do you have anything to add to that? Because I never really got it. I see that it's just the states repeating, but
Yeah, I mean, how our calendar came about is not something very clear to us. You know, it could be accurate, or it could be, you know, a little bit distorted, or not really precise. Let's say we try to count the time through certain patterns, you know, but fundamentally there is not really today, tomorrow, much less weeks and months and years, because all we know is that we go through three states, isn't it? But then there are some other relationships, you know, between our planet and the sun, the orbit of our planet, and other factors involved as well. But if we want to look into time, it's better reflected by the three states that keep you know, on a cyclical manner, changing, and again we come back to the same thing. So every day is today, actually. I mean, when we get to tomorrow becomes today, right?
yeah.
And every day is today. And then yesterday is just a memory about today. So we only experience today. We only experience the famous now. Yeah? There's only now, there's only today. And we know that we have three states. These things we know for sure. We experience three states, unless we have some mystical abilities to experience altered mental states. So we experience these three states. So I guess that's what James means to say, there is only one day with three states. Anybody else could say something else? Add something else to it?
In the cosmic calendar, I've heard that this whole manifestation that we're living through now is called the Day of Brahman. And when it unmanifest, the unmanifest cycle comes into being, that's called the Night of Brahman.
Yeah.
In this aspect, all of this is just one day, looking at it from Brahman's perspective.
Yeah. And what is interesting in what you were saying is that we have three states that we experience on our micro level. The consciousness, we are as a jiva experiencing three states: the awakened state, the day, and the night. But we experience in the night not only the pralaya, our mini pralaya, but we experience another projection called the dream state. So when we bring it to the macro, since the micro and the macro, the pattern remains. So what would be the dream of consciousness, So what is the dream? I mean, we say it's the day of Brahman and the night of Brahman, the dream, the sleep, and the awakening of Brahman, or Maya, howsoever we want to put it. And then there is something to look at. And how about the dream? Because from different angles we say that this is all a dream. Dream of whom? This is a dream of Maya or Brahman, as we want to say. So what is the difference between the day of Brahman is awakened, and the day of Brahman as a dreamer, So this could give rise to a nice discussion as well, huh?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the answer to that, Arlindo. I don't know.
Thanks for clarifying that. I have always sort of had a little bit difficulty with time. I can understand space being complete, undivided, but time has been a little bit harder for me. I'm trying to grok it, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, because time is a very relative phenomenon, as we know. It's very relative. So if I want to go from Portland to Seattle by bicycle, and then it's the same distance, but then I'm gonna see it as a huge time lag, between Portland and Seattle. But if I jump into a jet and I fly, it's time is very quick, it's very short. So when we're experiencing, in that sense, it will depend on the means by which I move from one point to another point. The same thing when we move from one thought to another thought as well. When we move from one thought into another thought, it will depend on the nature of that thought. We're going to have a different feeling of time as well, So if it is a pleasant thought, and then it may feel like it goes very fast. If we go into an experiencing a thought or an object that it's very pleasant, it goes very fast. But if it is painful, like a toothache, 5 minutes with a toothache, it may feel like 5 hours, right? So it's all relative to the experiencer. So time is something, and then when you start looking into all these concepts of different timelines, so, and then we go into this mystical, these different realms or dimensions and lokas where time is different. We can experience as well the difference between the time in our state as a dreamer from the time we experience in our state as the awaker. We can easily see that the time it's things happen very fast there. In the dream state, we can have a lot of experience in a few minutes. So it's very, very relative. That much I can understand it. It's very relative. But I never really looked much philosophically into the nature of time. I have always seen it as associated with space. Space between objects, and it's all based on the observer and its identity with one body, and then we establish the other bodies or the other objects as if they are out there, and then we are in duality, and then we experience the space-time, the distance between thoughts and objects, and the time it takes to go through one thought or to go through one experience, or to the time to move from one thing to another thing. So it's all based on this mithya duality that the mind projects of the objects as being outside of my mind, and then there is space and time are there. So this is the world we live, is duality, and whatsoever density level, I would say, or dimension, there will be always a pattern of time, space there, because there is duality, but it may be experienced differently. The same way we experience it differently from our dream state and our awakening state, isn't it, or not? Anything else?
It just seems that time and space, maybe I shouldn't bother so much, but it just keeps coming back as a question for me. It must be one of the very fundamental, the swarupa of mithya, you know.
Yeah.
But I know I really need to understand Maya in order to gather a full Atmayana. I really need to get Maya. And so I worry about that I don't understand time and space, but maybe I should just let it aside for a while.
Well, we know for sure. You're going to say something, Karen?
I was gonna, just point out the more linear, that we age and we go through childhood and teenage years, and there's that time, and it's, I guess I was looking through, some old pictures, and then you just go, wow, I was kind of, what person was I then? You know what I mean? It's interesting to reflect on so many, when you're older and look so many years back, so that aspect of time and who you were, as a child, a teenager, and that piece of it is interesting.
It always depends on the stand of the observer, the experience. And the moment that we take a stand in the body as a body, and then we see the time, changing, the body changing over time, over experiences, So if we identify with the physical body, and then we see a sequence of memories, events, in a certain timeline, and then we see that the body decays. It seems to be the nature. Everything that comes into existence in mithya is to decay and to die, although there are some rumors that maybe that could be fixed, by technology and science, who knows. But this is due to this identification. But just imagine if we would take a stand in our states, the 3 states, and then how would we see time? Going back to what Aline was saying, we would say time. I say, oh my God, again I woke up, again I dreamt, again I was awake, and again I dream, and again I'm awake. So you see this time no longer as linear, but we see it as cyclical. You understand? So in truth, time is cyclical, because it's like the day of Brahman and the dream of Maya and the night of Pralayan, let's say. No? So it's a cycle. But then we see these cycles. No? We have this notion, this sense of linear time, due to our identification with our dense, our dense expression as the body. And these identification are going to see everything outside changing and decaying as well. So I guess it always depends on the stand of the experience or observer, or you know, observing this phenomenon. So when we look back and we see, oh, look at that little person and this, and then my life history, and then I did this, and I suffered so much in that phase, and then you keep seeing, and then you were totally identified with this, the timeline of this apparent entity going through one thought experience at the time, you know, one thought experience at the time in the awakening state. Yeah, it's a different thing. When we look into that from that angle, we forget about the deep sleep and the dream. We just look at as the awaker, my awaker timeline, my waker life history, and then I go through all of that, and this identification is strong, of course, and the sense of time is very, very tangible, okay, because we see our aging. But again, so once we establish our identity as consciousness, in consciousness as consciousness, this time thing is not very much relevant or important anymore, because you see that everything is consciousness, and then everything that is a superimposition in that which is my reality, and the only reality, you know, is just images or configurations that come and go, and they change from moment to moment, giving us a sense of time. You understand? So there is no time in consciousness. Time is on these superimpositions, on these projections of image, of thought objects, image, that are going to give us exactly like in the screen of a cinema. You know? That all these superimpositions of light through these little films, you know, are going to give us impression of event and time, you know, and the history, something going on there. But the only truth is the screen. There is only the screen of consciousness, and then there are these thoughts that go like that. So we don't move in the sense we are not part of any event. The event is superimposed on us. Okay. So, and then we need to identify with that which does not move, that does not do anything, and is not subject to time. So if we are too fascinated with time, it may be an indication that I'm still identified with that which is timely, you know, and subject to temporality and death, right? So it's better we forget about time, because time does not really belong to us, isn't it, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Time belongs to.
I can't speak.
I hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. This is the first time I have this big screen.
Oh, I can't speak. It's really great. It's a nice analogy. No, I'm sorry, I cannot speak. How come you are speaking there?
Doing something that I don't know. Lynn would understand.
Yeah, it's like someone coming to us and says, "What do you talk about consciousness? I don't know what it is, you know? Where is this consciousness?" And the person is consciously, you know, expressing a concept in consciousness.
Yeah.
As you said, Arlindo, it depends on where are you, how you say it, I don't remember, but if you identify with the body, if you identify with the dream state, sleep state, and if you are identified with the consciousness, because I think that Ramji said that there is only one day, because maybe he talks about from the point of view of consciousness. But we can also say that we are maybe Ramji says that, I don't, not sure about that, but he also says at the end we are also thinking the same thought every time. from the standpoint, from the point of view of consciousness, it's like it only on media it changed, but at the end it's always also we can say this is the same thought. So it is at the same time always the same day. You are from the standpoint of, from consciousness. At least I understand it in this way.
Yeah, there are many thoughts, yeah, floating, and we tend to have our favorites, our favorite thoughts according to our pattern, yeah, and then those thoughts, they visit us more often, and then if we don't pay attention, they become very repetitive.
Due to the fact that we can have only one thought at a time, at the end we cannot even say if we are thinking different thoughts, because every thought has a memory of the precedent thought. And you know, I I see on this point of course we have a lot of thought, but it's on the Mithya side. If you see from the standpoint of Satya,
I understand. Yeah. So you see, if there is only a day, and in fact, if there is only this very moment, and then it doesn't matter which thought it is, it modifies itself, but it's just an object. So that occurs in the mind. So there is only this moment and one thought, and this thought is idam. Isso que aparece, that which is before me, is an object, idam, you know. I, aham, and idam, you know. I and that, you know. I and this object before me.
Yes. But why do we say that time is cyclical? I don't understand maybe the word in itself. I understand that time is not linear. This is clear. But I don't know why we say that it's cyclical, because we say that because it repeats always different forms.
From the standpoint of the jiva, time is linear, okay? And time begins when he is born and he becomes conscious of its self-image, you know? And then he starts observing the passage of time. Yeah? So from the standpoint of jiva, time is experienced linearly. From the standpoint of consciousness, there is no question of any time. Okay, so time is out of picture. But from the standpoint of Maya Ishvara, time is cyclical. You understand? Because Maya is going to fall asleep, you know, and then during pralaya, and then from there it's going to produce, you know, the day or the awakening state. So we see it more clearly. That's why I found it interesting, that discussion, because from the micro standpoint of the human jiva, we have three states. So we experience cyclically, we experience the awakening, and then the sleep and the dream. So all experience, they happen within these three states. Are you still there? So we were saying that we have these three states from the jiva point of view, standing, but from Brahman we have the day and the night. The night is when everything shrinks back or unfolds back or rolls back into the macrocosmic causal body. Everything goes back into pralaya. Everything disappears and everything is retained as in its potential seed form. So that is one state, and then it wakes. Brahman awakes and bringing about the other two dimensions. Let's say the subtle and the physical. The dense manifestation. We have these two realms into existence. Brahman just wakes up and then the subtle and the physical universe both comes into existence. So we can see clearly from the Jiva that we have one day, and from that angle, time is cyclical because we wake and then we sleep, we dream and then we awake. So we only experience thoughts, and we experience no thought in awakened state, in deep sleep state, and the other two states we experience our inner thoughts or thoughts in connection with the physical Vyavaharika when we are the waker. So we experience thoughts and or no thoughts according to these three states. So it's, if we want to see what's the time here, oh, now it's the waking time. Oh, what's the time now? Now it's the dreaming time. So, but from Brahman, the same thing. It unfolds back into the macrocosm causal body, and then it brings about the two other levels or dimension or realms, the subtle and the physical manifestation. So what is the difficulty in understanding, Claudio, that time from this angle is from this point of observation, it is cyclical. I mean, if the Jiva forgets about the two states, the dream and the deep sleep, and they say, no, I mean, I'm the waker, and we see in a waker, the awakening experience of the waker, I experience the Vyavaharika Satya and the Pratibhasika, which is my subjectivity, the way we experience the Vyavaharika. I'm experiencing the dense, physical, manifest objects, and then the way I'm going to interpret and make some determinations about that. This is my Pratibhasika. So as a waker, I'm interacting with this Vyavaharika, and I'm establishing my own Pratibhasika. And by doing so, I have a sense of linear timing, because I'm identified with the awaker. The awaker it's operating through the physical body. Only when we are fully identified as the physical body of the waker, and then we have a sense that time is linear. But if we shift the identification for, let's say, to the subtle body, you understand, or to the states. So, if we bring into the equation the three states and the fact that we have three bodies, and with the fact that we have three different natures of nature of experience, and then time is already different. You understand? It's just there is only time to sleep, to dream, and to be awake. Isn't it, Claudio?
Yeah. Yes. We were talking about that also when you were not there with with Mark and Lynn, and we clarified also this a little bit. It was only a little confusion about the word, the very word,
nice,
cyclical, only to have a little bit more clear why we say cyclical, but now it's more clear. Thank you.
But when we look into creation itself, there are a lot of arguments or rationals or logic that can demonstrate that even the creation, the manifestation of this universe is not linear. You understand? Because if it was linear, it means to say that it's linear in a certain linear timeline. And then we say, okay, the universe began here. Trillions of years ago began this universe. Okay? And then we have to imagine, okay, so the creation exists, or the universe exists from this point in time. How can you establish a point in time at the beginning of creation unless this 0 point from which creation manifests itself. So if we establish a beginning of time, it can only be done with seeing another timing, how you say, pattern. You need another scale of time. If you say time begins here, and then you need another scale of time, because time is relevant only within the scale of time. You understand? So, and then there is no non-time, there is no non-existence, and now the universe exists before it did not exist. So no, there is no such a thing. Nothing comes from nothing. The creation cannot come from nothing. Time cannot come from non-time. You understand? So there is just a question of 3 timings or 3 states. The macrocosm causal that manifests the same way we have the seed of a huge tree, that it comes from where? Where did the tree come from? Where the seed came from? It came from the tree, or the tree came from the seed?
Yeah.
So where did the existence of a tree begin? It began from the seed, began from the flowers, from the branch. So it's beginningless. That's why the universe and time is beginningless in that sense, Events and Shwara Jiva Jagat is beginningless, because the tree is contained in the seed, and the seed is contained in the tree. You understand? So everything is cyclical. There is no beginning of time or beginning of creation, okay? Because nothing comes from nothing. There is always a cause for anything that we see as a phenomenal object. And this is the macrocosm causal body of the universe. The same way we have our microcosmic causal body, now a body of individual vasanas that causes us another birth. And here we come again with our bag full of vasanas, so that we can process our karma, and try to learn and grow. Right?
This is maybe the best example we can have. The seed, the flower, the tree, but it's a seed and then a flower and then the tree and the flower, the seed. This gives a good idea about the cyclicality of everything.
Well, and the chicken and the egg story, theory.
Exactly.
Was it the chicken or the egg first?
I'm in trouble here because I have chicken and I have eggs and I couldn't figure it out yet.
Yeah, amazing.
So Orlando, this being the case, that's why Vedanta says there's no creation, ajatiwada, nothing, no creation.
That this is the ultimate truth, that there is no creation really. There is what? There is an apparent creation, or better said, an apparent projection, apparent manifestation. So it's everything here is Maya, everything here is energy, that for some time it remains dormant, like a seed, and then when circumstances are favorable, it just sprouts and becomes the tree, the universe. So there is not really creation, but there is a projection that goes on and off, on and off. So this projection requires what? Requires, of course, the power of mind, of Maya, but it requires a screen on which this projection can be superimposed. So there is no creation really. There is no projection really. although it is experienced, the universe is experienced as a projection, you know, and but in truth, it's just consciousness, because there is only consciousness, right? The light in which the light that illumines and reveals, or the screen on which, or the mirror on which these superimpositions are reflected. Yeah? There are many ways we can try to metaphorically understand this relationship between reality, which is consciousness, and mithya, which is something that reflects in us as consciousness. Huh? So, as you have said, there is no creation, and when we want to understand creation, because a lot of people get caught up with this notion. So, but how did it come about, and why it came about, when it came about, this manifestation? And ultimately, none of these questions can be answered, although we can understand a little bit of the rules and laws that somehow keep this illusion together, keep this projection in place, the structure, you know, it's intelligently designed, this magic show. We can understand a little bit of that, but we can never really understand the true nature of this apparent phenomenon, meaning to say when it began, why it came about, and when it's going to end. And there are so many why. And the only way we can pacify our minds about this universe is by understanding that it's not real. It's the only way. Otherwise, we are never going to come to any mental pacification, because it's not comprehensible to the human intellect. How Maya brings about, how Maya makes the impossible possible, how consciousness makes the impossible possible with Maya, with Maya's power. Why? How? We don't know. But it's important for us to know that it's not really real. Because if we take it to be real, this universe, this creation, if we take it to be real, immediately we are in duality. We are caught up in duality, and then we want to resolve our minds within this dualistic relationship between I and the other objects that occurs within my intellect, my mind. So, and then we are going to be chasing or trying to manipulate and control the other objects as a means to find mental resolution. So mental resolution is not only by understanding that creation is not real, it is as good as non-existent, because it's not real, although it can be experienced. Therefore, it somehow exists, but it's almost as good as non-existent because it's not real. But we don't want to stop there and say that, no, this is not real, this is non-existent, and then we want to establish what is real. And that is the final purpose of all these inquiries and discriminations and teachings. And now we want to extract what is the only reality, which, by the way, is our very nature, because it's the nature of everything, of all these superimpositions. Just imagine what is the nature of all these images project on the screen on a huge cinema hall. There are so many things being projected on there. What is the fundamental nature of all of these projections? So the fundamental nature is that which does not change is the screen. The screen there is the nature of all these images that keep changing and giving us a sense of action and time movement and time and so on. So the nature is the screen. So likewise, the nature of this Mithya universe, the nature of this Jiva, the human intellect, in which the intellect experience this Mithya superimposition, the nature is what? The nature is consciousness. And we need to understand that even the piece of equipment, the instrument by which we can reflect these superimpositions, these objects, which is the intellect itself is something seen by me. Therefore, even the intellect is part of the projection. There is something, the intellect is another superimposition, is another object. How come? Because I can reflect it, I can see it, I can know it. There is a knowingness about even the most subtle aspect of this equipment of experience, which is the intellect. So we know that all of these are resolved in consciousness as consciousness, which is the fundamental nature of all superimpositions that are superimposed upon consciousness through the human intellect, the Jivatma. It needs an instrument for receiving this incredible magic show, this beautiful projection of the universe in which there is so much ignorance operating as well, So that is the ultimate teaching. So once we go through this, there is no creation really. The only thing there is I, aham, Brahma is me. I am limitless consciousness, the only reality. So this is and everything that appears shining in this consciousness as a variety of names and forms and colors and so on, is just a projection. So once we come to that understanding, and then we don't need Vedanta anymore, right? Because we got to the bottom of things. Although the projections are so persistent that they are going to keep showing up until once Prarabdha karma is exhausted, as scriptures say. And this is called freedom. Freedom is just identify yourself properly as your true nature, that which is free from changing, free from time. And it's such a play because the intellect is changing, and the intellect is the instrument to gain this clear knowledge about its very nature that does not change, but the intellect is changing. That's why we need to have a good sattvic intellect, not that it remains always sattvic, but it has to be soaked, having a more predominance or dominance or proportions of sattva, so that we can get this clear understanding. And then the intellect can change, no problem. The intellect will continue changing because it keeps changing. States, moods may come and go, but knowledge is that which is always good. I love this phrase, this sentence. Knowledge is that which is always good. And so very few people understand that, because it's the only thing that does not change once it is meant as self-knowledge, because it's a knowledge about that which never changes. And once you got that, you can never forget it. So we have about 10 minutes. What shall we do with it?
We had just a little bit to finish in that one chapter.
Yeah,
Remember that?
we do. Let's finish
You know,
that
that, yeah.
before we go into the 5 sheets. The awakened state is an ideal state in which to get a clear understanding of the gross body, because that is our primary focus and means of contact with the world. So the awakened states, we have the 3 bodies all the time with us, as we know. We cannot have the subtle without the causal, or having the physical without the subtle and the causal body. So the awakened state is the state that usually we are mostly identified with the gross body, the dense body. And we have our subtle body, of course. And it is in this state that we can get a better understanding, that's what I say here, of the gross body, because that's our primary focus and means of contact the world. And I would say that the awake state is the ideal state to get better understanding of the subtle body as well. So we need to be the awaker, because if we are dreaming, our intellectual faculty is very poor during dream state. The awakened state is an ideal state in which to get a clear understanding of the gross body, because that is our primary focus and means of contact with the world. It's the instrument. The physical body is required to interact with the world. And then it is in the awakened state, we can get an understanding of our Manomaya kosha now, our food. We're going to move into the koshas, food kosha, or food sheets. And but there is not much there in the physical body for us to understand, as we know. So the physical body, we leave it to Ishvara. And if we have some good doctors, we can get some help from good doctors, because they are the specialists in the physical gross body. So we have a huge interest not to understand the physical body, but understand the subtle body, right? Because the subtle body is where knowledge takes place. So we want to have a good understanding of the mechanics of the subtle body, because it's our primary instrument to be a knower experiencer. So I want to have a good instrument, right? I don't want to have a lousy instrument, because if I have a lousy instrument, I may not be able to extract ananda and knowledge through a lifetime, life experience. So in the dreaming state, the subtle body plays a predominant role. So now making a distinction, in the dream state is where the Jivatma is totally identified with the subtle body. In the awakened state, the Jivatma is identified with the physical body primarily, but also with the subtle body, the thoughts, ideas, and determinations, and notions, and how to move around and so on. In the dream state, the Jivatma is totally identified with its subtle body. In fact, it is the subtle body that shines to create that very state, that dream world. In the dream state, the subtle body plays a predominant role as the various vasanas play out in our dreams. So the vasanas are going to be shining, creating that subtle world of thoughts, object, thoughts and subtle objects. In this state, we can understand the functioning of the subtle body. Here it comes that it's again says that in the dream state, you can understand the subtle body. And I have been giving a little twist to this notion and presenting the idea that it is in the waking state that we can get a better understanding of the subtle body. But we can also understand by inference the subtle body by remembering our dreams and seeing, oh my God, so how could I have done such a thing, in that dimension, that realm, in that dream state. I did things that it was not me, but I did it. So we can get a certain understanding of the nature, the quality of our vasanas in that sense. And we can understand better the way, vasanas not only projects our own reality, but filters the Vyavaharika reality, filters, because we receive the world through our vasana lens. It's like having glass, so we receive the world through our vasanas. So the deep sleep state helps us to understand the causal body. Yeah. In this state, all the functions of the gross and the subtle bodies are resolved back into the causal body. So the causal body is very difficult to be understood because, as we know, we cannot objectify it in the same way we objectify the other two bodies. Now we can objectify the dream state, we objectify our physical body and the physical world, but the causal body, there is nothing that we can objectify for two reasons. The Atma, the Jiva Atma is not really there. The experiencer entity is not there. The subject entity, experience entity, the Jiva Atma is not there, and the other objects are not there. Duality is not there. So it's difficult for us to understand the causal body, but by inference, we can get some hints of it. We can understand the causal body by observing its effects. And what are the effects of the causal body? Is what it projects, in the dream state, and what it projects in my conscious mind as tendencies, tendencies to think and say and act in certain ways. So in this state, all functions of the gross and subtle bodies are resolved back into the causal body. The organs of action and the organs of knowledge, the organs of action and knowledge do not function during the deep sleep, as we know. So we don't have the organs of action and the organs of knowledge. There is an absence of thinking and feeling, and even the I sense is no longer present. So this entity, I am, I exist, it's not really conscious there. If there is a I as we know, there is, it's unconscious or subconscious I, which is the I am of the prana, jiva. It's still there, but it does not have any tangible, substantial experience of itself. Let's say that because of lack of sattva guna, as we know, there is no sattva to shine with consciousness to produce a conscious I am. I know that I am, and I'm having an experience here. So in the deep sleep, the aham that comes with that state is subconscious or unconscious. There is an absence of thinking and feeling, and even the I sense is not consciously present, although the physical and gross bodies are not resolved. They are as good as resolved because they are without voluntary function, making the deep sleep state serve as a model for dissolution, or in other words, the pralaya of the jiva atma, the individual atma, individual soul. So the physical body is there, the gross body is there. He presents a distinction there. The physical body and the gross body, there is no activity there, and there is no physicality there. They are resolved. They are resolved into the causal body, and they are not resolved in the sense that any observer from outside of the sleeper, the individual sleeping, will see like, okay, but there is some gross body and some activities going there. So the pranas are going on, and the gross body is still present, okay? So they were not resolved completely, okay? We know that the prana maya is going to be there supporting the body during this mini pralaya, this resolution of the mind. But the body is there, the pranas are still there, but they are as good as resolved because there is no room for voluntary functioning. So the ego is there not being able to think or anything. And because the ego is not there, the ego is that aspect of our experience that feels like I am the doer here and I'm making certain things happen. So the ego is not there, and that makes the deep sleep a model for our pralaya, understanding pralaya from the standpoint of the micro atma, and then we can understand of the pralaya of the macro atma self. Understanding the three states and the fact the experiencer changes from one state to another during the course of a single day, again, it's saying about one day, is an important line of self-inquiry. So it's very important to understand, that's what it says, that we go cyclically through three states in a single day. And according to Ramji, there is only one single day, because tomorrow is going to be again this day. So there is only one day, and within the day there are the natural three states. If I am forever changed from waker to dreamer and from dreamer to deep sleeper, then I cannot be any one of these three entities. So this is, again, we don't analyze this changing phenomena except for understanding the changeless nature behind all these changing phenomena. Okay, so if I am forever changed from these three states, I cannot be any one of these entities. Why I'm going to say that? Because I'm a Vedanta guy, and I heard that I am a karta. I do not change. Okay, so there is something that is changing It is the Jiva-Atma going through 3 states as a Vishwa, Taijasa, and Pranya. But that is something that it's not my true nature, because I understood and I have a certain degree of understanding and intellectual trust in this declaration of my nature as unchanging, akarta. Akarta is I don't do anything. And I do not change. Let's see if I remember this Sanskrit word. I am akarta, and I forgot it right now. If I stop using the words, it escapes me for some time. So I will remember and bring it back next class. So I do not modify to experience. I do not change. And therefore, I cannot be these 3 entities that keep showing up. There must be another factor involved, which is an unchanging factor by which I am able to witness and know change. You cannot witness and know change unless there is something changeless. Just imagine, Claudio, that I want to witness change, and I myself am changing. Just imagine, something is moving and changing, and I am myself. So when I witness this thing here that's changing, moving, and then immediately, this thing has changed, and I already changed, and then that observer is no longer present. Therefore, I can never observe real change unless I identify with the unchanging aspect of myself. So we observe change. And the mind, what does? What does the mind do? The mind changes. So the mind cannot really witness change because the mind is of the same order of change. So we can only observe change from the standpoint of consciousness. And those little pieces of knowledge, they are small jewels, Once we understand it clear, we say, oh my God, of course, I don't change. Yeah, I almost came to my mind the word.
Arlindo, I just thought of the word achalam.
Achalam. There is another one that Swami Paramarthananda used more often. Yeah, I will send it in the email. Thank you. But I like to know this one, achalam. Okay. So I'm able to witness this continued change. That factor is simply consciousness, awareness, myself, the self. This will be discussed in the next chapter on the self, in the coming chapter. But now, first we go into the 5 sheets. Okay, very nice. It was very pleasant satsang. I thank you for that. And we meet again soon. Ishvara willing. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, my friends. Much love. Namaste. We meet again soon.
Thanks, Arlindo. Bye now.
Thank you.